Good morning, Scotland. Good morning, social media land. I hope you're well. It is Thursday, the 17th of October, 2024. This past week, we have discussed what revenue streams Scotland has and who collects them. What would Westminster lose if Scotland went independent, and how Scotland has a deficit forced upon it in its share of financial decisions it has no control over. I want to finish this week's videos with an uplifting discussion about an independent Scotland's economic future and its place in the global economy. Let's start by laying the groundwork. Scotland is not a new nation. Its culture is known, its products are sought after, and probably most importantly with regards to international trade, Scotland is trusted. This means we're not starting from scratch when it comes to agreeing and setting up international trade treaties. Also, Scotland being a producer and supplier of energy means that we have a bit of clout too. So if we're taking this as the starting point and move directly into one of the most controversial topics for a future economy of an independent Scotland, that being the currency of an independent Scotland, we will see that the overlapping circles of our potential and its impact on our nation is quite a positive thing. Here's my disclaimer though. I am no economist. I have no idea about the ins and outs of the global currency markets. What I do know is that it's not as complex to create your own currency as it's made out to be. So what would make the international community want to get involved with a fledgling Scottish currency? Well, that depends on the international investment we can encourage into Scotland. Because with international investment comes trust and economic stability. And these two are vital factors to prop up any currency. So then, how do we encourage international business to invest into Scotland? This is probably something that will overlap into many ideas of a future independent Scotland, and it's kind of threefold. What we need to do is encourage a boom of Scotland being a manufacturer of goods once again. For that, we need the international community to recognise and invest in the potential that we have. Okay, so how do we encourage this then? Well, consider the following. First of all, understand one of the most vital components of manufacturing in the world today is water. It takes between 52 and 83,000 litres of water to make a car, 12,000 litres just to make a smartphone, and 10,000 litres to make a pair of jeans. That is a lot of water, and water is something that we are truly not short of. How about we offer manufacturing companies setting up shop in an independent Scotland very cheap water? Perhaps only charging them the logistics of getting the water to their factory. Well, what else would a manufacturing company need to make their goods? Well, that's a second factor, and that factor is energy. A whole load of energy. Well, we know that we have a lot of that too, and we're only making more and more of it each and every day. So again, to encourage international investment, why don't we give the companies setting up in Scotland energy at a reduced cost? In fact, why don't we just let them pay for the transmission of that energy and not the metered amount that they use? Free energy for making shit in Scotland. The third and probably the most important factor is who are going to operate their high-tech modern factories and businesses. Well, do high-tech modern factories and businesses not require well-educated individuals to operate them? More than 50% of Scotland's present workforce has a degree. Also, there will be an emphasis of companies setting up in Scotland to look after their workforce with proper pay and conditions. These factors are essential in encouraging businesses into Scotland. But what is in it for us, the people of Scotland, if we're giving companies cheap water and cheap energy? First of all, a strong, stable, trusted economy would encourage trade, tourism and exports. This would mean more jobs and more money coming in for the people of Scotland. A future independent Scotland should tax its population less. We still need to pay for our civilization, of course, but we should be taxed less for the time that we give up to earn our wage. Less tax means more money in our pockets and in turn more money being spent domestically in our economy. Companies, on the other hand, are soulless entities constructed on paper. These entities deserve to make a profit, but should be taxed fairly and with cast iron legislation with no loopholes. The taxation is what will drive the surplus in our budget, encouraging international investment into Scotland. In a traditional capitalist economy that exploits the consumer and the workers, companies receive low taxation to encourage their investment. I don't feel this is right. They should be taxed more. And traditionally, companies would run a mile from an economy doing this. However, as said earlier, companies will receive very cheap energy. In fact, only the transmission costs of that energy. They will receive cheap water. In fact, only the logistics charged to get the water to them. And consider this, it will be green energy, so companies can boast of their newly founded massively reduced carbon footprint, making their goods more ethical and desirable. This is by design to reduce manufacturing costs and also offset fair and stricter taxation that they would receive. The taxation of companies is a vital component for investing in our nation and our infrastructure. So what next is it that would make Scotland a desirable place to invest in? Well, we would require locations to create manufacturing hubs that also have logistical potential for supply chain and components and export deliveries. One of these areas is Stranraer, an area of Scotland that has great potential for a deep water port. It already has a railway line in place, and its location is ideal for exporting to North and South America. Goods could be transported by rail to the east of Scotland to set sail from the newly constructed deep water port at Grangemouth directly to the EU. However, I do feel strongly that an independent Scotland would need to remove all free port statuses and EEZ statuses held in Scotland, as fair regulation for quality and purpose to eliminate any potential exploitation needs to be feathered out. Scotland would also be able to borrow and invest in its own future from its own central bank. And based on a strong exporting economy that we have presently as part of the Union, and only growing stronger as an independent nation, that's going to be easy. Being geographically located between the two largest markets in the world, the US and the EU, and the ability to trade with them on our own terms. This is a no-brainer. Borrowing from our own central bank for investment in what our nation needs and wants, such as transport, health and well-being care, education, energy, and most importantly, the future of our people. Again, I'm going to say no-brainer. Our ability to grow would be positive, and of course, our Scottish Central Bank would be the main management of our own currency. Which now takes us full circle from what we asked at the start of this video. What would make the international community want to get involved with a fledgling Scottish currency? Well, that has been answered clearly, but let's summarise. Scotland is not a new country. We have a positive international reputation. We already have sought after goods and services. We have an educated population, we have water, we have energy. We are geographically located to trade with the US and the EU, and we are a stable, democratic country. And we also already have an exporting economy that is outstripping the rest of the UK. We are not starting from scratch. We have internal infrastructure that will only get better with independence. And we have the departments of government designed to trade and switch over to operating as a central bank with very short notice. Wait, did you not realise that the Scottish Investment Bank is a potential precursor to a central bank? When you take all these points into account, it is a no-brainer that the international community would be knocking on our doors to invest in our currency, easily creating several reserve currencies in place for Scotland. All this destroys every single argument regarding Scotland's economy being rubbish. And you know what? Even if it took a decade to set it up, we have demonstrated clearly in yesterday's video that Scotland can easily afford independence presently. It's the Union and Westminster that can't afford Scottish independence. Tomorrow night we're going to be live to recap this week's videos and to discuss this and other pertinent independence topics. 11 PM Greenwich Mean Time on YouTube and TikTok. I hope to see you there. Until then, have an amazing day.
I can't get no sleep.